Over the past month, we've been seeing a growing debate over cancel culture. In a recent article titled Head Cases, The Psychology Behind the Cancel Culture Debate, Politico Editor-In-Chief John Harris explains why a recent attempt by a number of liberal intellectuals to cancel culture may have missed its mark. Do you follow that? John Harris joins me now. John, thank you so much. It's really intriguing to think about this. You focus a lot, first of all, on the letter in Harpers, signed by more than 150 writers and academics. Can you explain, first of all, the psychology behind this, including why you believe it's a fight or flight moment for intellectuals?
I think this hits home for a lot of people who are writers, who are journalists, who are academics, because they can, to some degree, imagine themselves saying the wrong thing and getting canceled, either with a storm on social media or, in the worst case, their employers saying that they're letting them go. This has happened in a couple of cases because people said controversial things. So the group of people who signed this letter, they're very, very well-known writers, people like Salman Rushdie, a number of prominent columnists. So these were big voices, and they said what we need is to restore a liberal spirit, the competition of ideas and arguments. But of course, the very thing they were warning about did rain down on them as a lot of people on the left, and particularly on social media, said that they themselves represented a kind of establishment privilege.
Well, you said that you were not asked to sign the open letter, but if you had been, what would have been your reaction?
I would have been certainly in agreement with the sentiments in that letter. I do think that we need to keep an open debate. I think we can really vigorously disagree, but the idea of sort of casting people outside the bounds of discussion or subjecting them to kind of vicious mockery, I think that's not a good thing for democracy. I think I would have, even as I was sympathetic with the letter, I would have recognized that they were in some ways leading with their chin, that they were saying some things that in some ways made them look kind of brittle and overly sensitive. The very thing they accuse oftentimes many younger activists of being. So I probably wouldn't have signed even though I was sympathetic to it.
Well, let's talk about the rebuttal, called A More Specific Letter on Justice and Open Debate. Now, it argues the Harper's letter is a, quote, caustic reaction to a diversifying industry, one that's starting to challenge institutional norms that have protected bigotry. Do you believe, John, some real change can come from so-called cancel culture?
In general, I don't think people should be canceled. I think they should be rebutted. If somebody says something that you really disagree with or you think is wrong-headed, by all means, criticize. I don't really like the idea of people sort of being rejected or subject to mockery. Some ideas are so rooted in prejudice that we really do want to draw lines against them. I don't think that's what those letter writers and Harpers were saying. They were talking about people honestly trying to illuminate the big issues, and it's one thing to rebut; it's another thing to mock or to urge that people be fired or simply thrown out of the ring, if you will.
John, I'm just curious. Sorry to interrupt, but I wonder if you think this has sort of seeped out to the broader consciousness beyond just journalists and academics and sort of, the Twitterverse. We've heard, for instance, President Trump bring up this idea of cancel culture, and I wonder how much you think it might be seeping into a broader discussion as a society that we're having, especially, at a time when we're all stuck in our houses, we're all basically consuming information in such different ways than maybe we would have before.
We talk about the psychology of this debate, and I think you put your finger on something that's important. We are all at home. We are all living our lives, including our public lives, on computers, on our iPhones, on social media. And whenever you have that distance and you're talking to people not face to face, they become abstractions. And I think the debate gets a little more sour, and it's easy to have contempt for somebody rather than try to understand them. I wonder, is it really seeping far out? This is the kind of thing that reporters and academics like to argue about how much influence it has for the average person who's worried about his or her future and the pandemic and the economy. I guess I've got my doubts.
All right. Well, John Harris, thank you so much. A really intriguing piece. Thanks so much for joining us.